Hello and welcome to Lunchtime Politics. I am Kayode Okikulu. On the news this hour, groups and political parties criticize the conduct of the 2019 elections, and they are asking for improvement with a focus on fixing the electoral law ahead of future polls. And the electoral umpire is undergoing internal assessment and self-appraisal after the 2019 elections with the aim of proffering solutions to major challenges faced. With several new governors either suspending or dissolving local government officials in some states, the governors and their role in local government administration is brought to the fore yet again. Welcome everyone to the program. Our starting point this hour will be the ripples which were left in the aftermath of the 2019 elections as the Independent National Electoral Commission INEC is undergoing internal assessment of the conduct of the general elections. The Commission has been doing this across the state and the regions for the past few days, and that process is currently ongoing in Lagos. The electoral umpire says the cost of mistrust in the Nigerian electoral process is huge, and the Commission says it had to deal with a very large volume of high-quality paper and security printing during the 2019 general election because the materials are considered sensitive. The INEC National Commissioner Soyebi reveals this during a review of the 2019 general election in Lagos. Mr. Soyebi recommends electronic process across the voting stages, and it says this will eliminate the current analog and tedious process. Well, let's now join our correspondent, Dare Dowu, covering the event in the Keja area of Lagos. Dare, what more are they saying at the event, considering the barrage of criticism that have trailed the electoral process?
Right here, INEC is reviewing its activities of the 2019 election. Of course, the Commission feels it's very necessary to revisit some of these crucial issues that have been raised, of course, amid legal tussle and petitions coming from left, right, and center. So the Commission wants to basically evaluate what they did in that election and see what they need to basically improve on and the successes they recorded, how to basically consolidate on them. And that is what is going on right behind me here. People are sitting in groups. It's a session where they are going to be evaluating the election observers, election officers rather, who participated in that particular process. They are sitting and we can call it cross-checking and basically seeing how they can improve the process, which they said at some point they had challenges as well. But I have the National Commissioner of the Commission here with me, who is going to be throwing more light on some of these issues and the challenges that the Commission says it has. Thank you very much for joining us, Prince Solomon Soyebi.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, INEC right now is conducting a process, and this process is going on across the nation. And what it is about, basically.
Well, this is a review of the 2019 general elections. We are taking stock, and we want to find out what actually went right and what went wrong. It's to critique the whole election, find out lessons that we can learn, so that we can input these into preparations for future elections. As you rightly noticed, this is ongoing in the 37 units of the Federation, and it's a principle of charity beginning at home. We are starting with our electoral officers, our collation officers, presiding officers, basically our own staff. This review is going to take place across all the broad spectrum of participants, of our stakeholders. We're going to have the same thing with the press. We have the same with the political party. We're going to have the same with civil society organizations. We are going to review security. We are going to review practically every aspect of the election.
So the commission is reviewing these activities, and some people have helped the commission in a way to review, and there are reports, for instance, a report from NDI or the Joint Observer Mission, who basically called the commission low, and they said that the commission didn't meet the expectation of Nigerians. What's your take?
Honestly, I like when people read just some sections of a report without looking at it holistically. I'm sure that the NDI and then the IRI, they even told us that we did very well. So I don't know. It depends on who is reading what. This is the country in which we are now. It depends on who you are listening to. I'm sure some of them even rated this election as an improvement of 2015. But then they highlighted the shortcomings, which is exactly what we are doing too. We must find out what is wrong so that we can correct them. But people dwell more on what is wrong, and they definitely and conveniently bury what is right.
Okay, so very last one, I need to ask you this very crucial question. What is INEC doing about those reports? They are coming from left, right, and center, and INEC must at least act on them. What is it?
We are going to look at them very honestly and very critically, and then address them. Don't forget that not every aspect of the result of the reports concern us. There are some that will call for major legal reforms. Without the law, there are some things which we cannot do. There are some that deal with the politicians. Everybody, every aspect of the reports will be studied very critically. I will find a way of addressing them and inputting them into the preparations for future elections.
All right, thank you very much. That's the National Commissioner of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Prince Solomon Soyebi, telling us about how INEC will be taking the reports that they've got from organizations and even some countries to basically impute them and see how they can improve the process. And that's the update we have for you from here. Back to you, Coyote.
Thank you very much, Dario. Well, it'll be interesting to see INEC's final report on the conduct of the election. Well, speaking of reports, the final report of the Joint Election Observer Mission of the International Republican Institute and the National Democratic Institute has concluded that the 2019 general elections did not meet the expectations of many Nigerians. According to the report, voter confidence was shaken with only 35% of registered voters participating in the presidential election. The report also maintained in its analysis of the presidential elections that, quote, though the People's Democratic Party dominated in the southwest and southeast while gaining ground in the north central, these wins were not enough to surmount the higher turnout rates in the north, where the APC remained dominant.
The National Democratic Institute and the International Republican Institute deployed 3 pre-election assessment missions for the Ekiti and Osun gubernatorials in July and September of 2018, 40 observers for the February presidential and National Assembly elections in 16 states, and 20 observers for the March governorship and state assembly elections in 10 states. The final report concludes that the elections did not meet the expectations of many Nigerians, and only 35.66% of voters cast a ballot for president, making it the lowest turnout since 1999.
On election administration, complete the constituency delineation exercise and identify necessary polling units at least 1 year before the next elections. Make the continuous voter registration process more accessible to voters. Develop and adopt a strong strategic communications plan.
Another point of note in the report is the performance of political parties, which the mission says is the weakest link in Nigeria's democratic institutions.
In some instances, party leadership submitted candidate lists to INEC with nominees who had not won their primaries. Intra and inter-party disputes over the primaries led to violence in some states and more than 800 court cases, many of which were not settled by Election Day.
Senior advocate of Nigeria and spokesperson of the APC Presidential Campaign Council says the recommendations are commendable.
At the end of the day, the EU did not make this kind of observation that the NDI and the International Republican Institute made, that most of the polling was still peaceful. I appreciate that point they made so much. And that's the point we have been trying to push, that if you mention the drawbacks we have in some police stations across the country. At the end of the day, you must make a comparative analysis.
The NDI and IRI mission states that previous suggestions for improvements in Nigeria's electoral process were unheeded, and say though the elections in 2019 fell short of the standards set in 2015, their final report provides recommendations to enhance the credibility of elections in Nigeria going forward. Kayla Megwa, Channels Television News.
Well, we have more on that story as the presidency has reacted to that report, welcoming the observation, but it says it has its observations, or rather reservations, on the joint report of the IRI and the NDI on the 2019 general elections in Nigeria, as well as recommendations for the 2023 general elections. In a statement from the president's media office, it says that it is instructive that President Buhari clearly won this vote, and the report in no way disputes that fundamental fact that President Buhari won by almost a 4 million majority with a 14% margin. The statement further states that Nigeria has developed a tradition of improvements in its electoral process through enforcement of electoral law, which resulted in the prosecution and conviction of electoral officers that were found wanting in compromising our electoral process. The presidency says it, however, agrees, notwithstanding, that there are improvements that must be made in the process for the future. The sheer size, terrain, and remoteness of certain regions do pose serious logistical challenges. This election was won by the candidate who received the most votes. We value the report's recommendations. We can assure they shall be assessed and evaluated. Well, opposition parties are intensifying efforts to challenge President Muhammadu Buhari's victory at the February 23rd poll, with the latest strike coming from Hope Democratic Party. The party, in a fresh motion, is asking the tribunal to declare the polls conducted by the INEC on February the 23rd as unlawful, illegal, and unconstitutional. Its presidential candidate, Chief Ambrose Oworu, argues that the postponement of the election from February the 16th to the 23rd had no backing of any law, as no cogent and verifiable reason required by law were advanced for the postponement. Although the party admitted that the electoral body has powers under Section 26 of the Electoral Act 2010, it however maintained that no cogent and verifiable reason were produced to INEC to postpone the election and thereby render the election a nullity under the same law. The Hope Democratic Party is insisting that the poll is unknown to law and should be invalidated by the tribunal. And more reactions to the conduct of the 2019 elections, this time from the Zenith Labour Party, which says the 2019 elections fell short of the standards established in the 2015 elections. This formed part of the party's communique, which was issued at the end of its National Executive Council meeting, which held in Abuja. It blamed its poor preparation for the elections and conduct of security personnel on the unexpected postponement of the presidential and National Assembly elections by INEC. The party also frowns at any attempt to gag the media and calls for a free press.
The 2019 general elections were generally peaceful, but did not reflect a marked improvement on the standards established in 2015. 2, that the unprecedented, unexpected postponement of the presidential and National Assembly election by 1 week negatively affected the preparations of political parties, and that the conduct of security personnel, the use of money at all levels, affected the quality and outcome of the elections.
Well, we'll be getting more perspectives on the conduct of the 2019 elections, especially with the report and the reactions. And we'll have joining us in a moment UDP National Chairman and a former presidential candidate, Mr. Godson Okoye. He joins us from our Abuja studio. We'll be talking about that in a moment. That's when Lunchtime Politics returns. Stay with us.